A fragile fawn, carefree and innocent, trailed a drifting butterfly, its eyes fixed on beauty, blind to danger. Step by step, it wandered deeper into the forest, unaware of the shadows gathering around it. From beneath the leaves, the snakes stirred. They sensed the movement, their bodies coiling with anticipation. Silent, patient, they waited. High above, the monkeys spotted what the fawn could not. Their voices erupted in frantic cries, a desperate warning echoing through the trees. But the young deer, lost in its chase, failed to understand. Oblivious, it stepped forward. Directly into the snare of waiting fangs. The peace of the forest shattered in an instant. What had begun as a harmless chase, a young fawn following a drifting butterfly, had turned into a nightmare. From the shadows, the snakes had struck, their bodies coiling with terrifying strength. The fragile creature let out a cry so sharp, so desperate, it pierced the night. It was the sound of innocence in peril. The snakes tightened, their scales grinding against the earth as they pulled the fawn down. The young deer kicked and thrashed, its hooves scattering dust and leaves, but the predators were too many, too powerful. Each desperate movement seemed only to draw more coils, more fangs, more danger. Above, the monkeys erupted into chaos. Their eyes had seen what the fawn could not, and their voices rose into a chorus of frantic chanting. They screeched and howled, desperate to warn, desperate to act. But when the cries of the fawn weakened, the troop understood, sound alone would not be enough. With fearless urgency, they descended. Branches shook as the monkeys dropped to the ground, surrounding the struggle. Small but relentless, they launched themselves at the serpents, clawing and pulling at the coils that bound the fawn. One snake was torn loose, then another. The forest floor became a battlefield of fur and scales, of shrieks and hisses. The snakes struck back, fangs flashing, bodies whipping through the dust. But the troop pressed on, their unity greater than their fear. Their voices never stopped, their chanting becoming a rhythm of resistance that filled the night. Then, in the midst of chaos, one monkey broke away. It darted into the treetops, racing from branch to branch. It was not fleeing, it was searching. Searching for the one who could tip the balance, the one the fawn needed most. The little deer's cries trembled, softer now, its strength fading. Yet above, the chorus of monkeys grew louder still, as if willing hope into existence. And in the distance, the sound of branches snapping, of heavy footsteps pounding closer, gave the first hint that salvation was coming. The mother had been called. And the snakes were about to face a force they had not expected. The battle for the fawn's life raged on. The snakes tightened their grip, their scales glistening as the young one cried out in pain, its voice growing weaker. Around it, the monkeys refused to surrender. They clawed, they bit, they screeched in defiance, tearing at the coils even as more serpents slithered in to replace the ones they pulled away. The forest echoed with their cries, a desperate chant, a warning, and a plea for help all at once. But they knew their strength alone would never be enough. Far away, the messenger monkey raced through the canopy, leaping from branch to branch, its cries sharp and urgent. Behind it thundered the mother. Her hooves struck the ground like rolling thunder, her nostrils flared with rage, her eyes burning with one thought: save her child. Guided by the frantic monkey, she stormed through the forest, crushing leaves and branches beneath her furious stride. Every beat of her hooves brought her closer to the cries she could never ignore. Back at the clearing, the monkeys clung desperately to the fight. They shrieked louder, pulling at the serpents, enduring strike after strike. Their eyes darted constantly toward the trees, waiting for the sound that meant hope. Then it came, the crash of branches, the roar of hooves. The mother had arrived. The battle was about to turn. The clearing was heavy with silence. Moments earlier, chaos had ruled, the desperate cries of monkeys, the furious hisses of snakes, the trembling pleas of a helpless fawn. Now the battle was over. The snakes lay sealed inside reinforced boxes, their coils thrashing in vain, their reign ended. The monkeys panted in exhaustion, their tiny bodies shaking from the struggle. At the center of it all, the fawn lay weak and trembling, its breath shallow, its strength nearly gone. The mother deer stood over her child, chest heaving, eyes burning with desperation. She had fought, she had raged, but even her fury had not been enough to protect her young alone. Then, through the heavy air, a sound emerged, a deep, steady hum. It grew louder. Stronger. A thunder rolling from the sky. The forest trembled as shadows fell across the clearing. Branches quivered, leaves swirled, dust spiraled into the air. Every creature paused. Helicopters. From above, their blades roared, cutting through the canopy like thunderous wings. Beams of light swept across the ground, settling on the scene of battle. The monkeys looked up, shrieking, not in fear, but in hope. The mother deer turned her head, ears twitching as she steadied herself. For the first time since the ordeal began, she sensed relief was near. Ropes dropped. Figures descended. Rescuers touched the ground with swift precision, their movements calm yet urgent. They carried nets, reinforced containers, and supplies. The serpents that still slithered on the edge of the clearing struck in defiance, but they were no match. Within minutes, they were seized and forced into boxes, their furious hissing muffled inside steel walls. The threat was gone. Now, all eyes turned to the fragile fawn. The rescuers knelt beside it, their hands gentle. The little one's body trembled, its eyes half closed, its cries nearly silenced. The mother stamped the ground, torn between protectiveness and trust. The monkeys grew quiet, their eyes wide, their cries fading to whispers. The entire forest seemed to hold its breath. From a pack, one rescuer pulled a bottle of warm milk. Carefully, they pressed it against the fawn's lips. At first, there was nothing. The fawn lay limp, too weak to respond. The mother leaned closer, her muzzle brushing against her child, urging it on. The monkeys rocked anxiously in the branches, as though praying for life to return. And then, a twitch. A spark. The faintest sip. The rescuers steadied their hands. The fawn swallowed once, then again. Slowly, weakly, it began to drink. Each swallow was a miracle, each breath a defiance against the darkness that had nearly claimed it. Strength trickled back into its frail body, sip by sip. The mother lowered her head, pressing her nose against her child as it fed. Her eyes softened, tears glistening in their depths. The rage that had consumed her melted into overwhelming relief. Around them, the rescuers stepped back, giving space for the bond between mother and child. The helicopters did not depart. They hovered like guardians, their blades slowing but steady, their lights bathing the clearing in a soft glow of protection. The rescuers did not rush. They remained, ensuring that recovery was not left unfinished. Minutes stretched into moments of healing. The bottle emptied, but the fawn's eyes were brighter now, its body warmer. It nestled against its mother, pressing close to her warmth, finding comfort in her heartbeat. The rescuers gently laid a small blanket across its back, shielding it from the night air. The mother allowed it, sensing no harm.